Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial on how to cut this basque top with flare sleeve. So this dress is also from Verma Stitches. So to start, I'll go ahead to mark my basic measurement, which includes my shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to waistline, and 5 or 4 inches for your basque, depending on how deep you want it to be. So you can even use 6 inches for this because it is a bit long. So the next step you want to take is to mark your shoulder divided by 2 and add half, because this dress has a sleeve. Come down by 1 inch for your shoulder slope at that point, and after you're done marking that, place your ruler and you're going to draw your shoulder slope. The next step is to go down and find your chest line. To find your chest line is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Mine is 7 inches, and I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'll draw out a straight line on this point. So after I'm done marking, you want to go ahead and mark what you have on the shoulder back at this point, which is 7.5 inches for mine, and I'll place my ruler and draw out a straight line. After I'm done drawing out a straight line, the next thing is to divide your armhole into 2. I'll do that by folding my tape, and I will mark at the midpoint. Come in by ½ inch at this point, and I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 at that point also to mark my armhole curve. So connect from your bust circumference to the midpoint and to the upper part of your pattern. So after you're done marking this, you want to go ahead and use your marker also to mark this out. So next, I'll go ahead to mark a basic neckline of 3 by 2 inches at this point. Or if you feel the neckline is a bit high, go ahead and use 2.5 inches. So I'll just go ahead and connect and mark out the rest of the shoulder. So next, you want to go ahead to mark your dart if you want to make use of that for this dress. Go ahead to mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2. Mine is 7 divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches. So I'll just go ahead and take this all the way to the lower part of the pattern. After that, I'll go ahead to draw a straight line at that point, and so next I'll go ahead to mark ½ inch on both sides, and I'll extend that all the way to the lower part of my pattern. Now come down by 1 inch at your bust, and I'll connect it to the ½ inch I have at the waistline of my pattern, and I'll extend this to the lower part of my pattern also. The next step is you want to insert your body measurement or body circumference for the pattern. Now I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4, and I'll add 1 inch for sewing allowance. Go ahead to mark your under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and add your sewing allowance. Mark your waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and add your sewing allowance. You can also take down this measurement at this point at the lower part, or just leave it at your waistline. So for this pattern, if you don't want yours to be hanging at the waistline, go down by 1 inch or 2 inches before going ahead to connect to your basque, or if you like, you can just leave it this way. So to cut out the basque area of this dress, I'm going to go ahead to blend in this dart. So just like I said, for this pattern, you can decide to use a dart, or you can go ahead to mark your dart. After you're done marking, you can go ahead to blend it out when sewing and cut your pattern as one piece. So after this, I'll just go ahead and draw this out with my marker, and this is what we have for the front pattern. So I forgot to mention that at the waistline, come in by your sewing allowance before connecting this. This is so that the back pattern and the front pattern will be matching at the sides. So after I'm done cutting out my pattern, I will also blend in the dart just to show you, in case you don't want to sew with your dart, you can blend this in, cut it, and cut this as one piece. Now we'll move over to the back pattern. For the back pattern, I'm gonna head to mark out all my basic measurement, and I used the neckline of 3 by 1.5 inches. I marked a zipper allowance of 1.5 at the back. So next, you want to insert your dart intake. To do that is also to mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2, draw out a straight line at that point. So here's the bust, here's the under bust, here is the waistline. So next, I'm going to go ahead to insert my measurement at this point and add my sewing allowance. After doing that, I'll come down to the bust by 1 inch, and I'll mark ½ inch on both sides for my dart, and I'll go ahead to connect. So after I'm done connecting this, I'll go ahead to insert my body measurement for this pattern. I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. Mark my waist circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. So just like I said, if you don't want your back pattern to be at the waistline, you can take it down by 1 inch or 2 inches lower than the waistline. Now I'll just go ahead and connect, and I will be going in by ½ inch here. Go ahead to extend it all the way to the lower part and also extend it to the upper part. This is to take care of the bulginess at the back of the dress, and I'll go ahead to cut out. So at this point, if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and also leave your comment at the comment section. So for the sleeve pattern, I marked my starting point, my shoulder to elbow, and where my sleeve stopped. Next, you need to find your sleeve cap height, and to find that is your bust circumference divided by 12 plus 0.5 inches. So I'll label this as cap height, elbow, and where my sleeve will stop. At your sleeve cap height, go ahead to mark your armhole circumference divided by 2. Mine is 16. Divided by 2, I have 8 inches. So after marking, I'll connect from that point all the way to the tip of the line before the starting point. So now I'm going to be dividing this part into 2. First, I'll fold my tape this way, and I will mark the midpoint of this tape. The midpoint of my line, and from here I'll divide it by 2 again, and I will mark. After dividing it, I'll come up by ½ inch here. Go ahead to divide the other side, and I'll fold. Go ahead to mark the midpoint and come down by ½ inch at that point. So after I'm done marking that, I'll just go ahead and connect this, starting from the midpoint all the way to the upper part and to the starting line. And after I'm done marking that, I'll just go ahead and extend this all the way to the lower part of the sleeve cap height. Now after connecting this is what I have. I'll go in with my marker and I will outline this out. After marking this out, I'll mark my elbow circumference divided by 2 and add my sewing allowance. Mark the lower part of my wrist divided by 2 and add my sewing allowance. I'll go ahead and connect this all the way to the lower part of my pattern, and I'll extend this down to the wrist part. So after I'm done cutting this, we'll go ahead to cut out the sleeve part, the flare part of this sleeve, which is into 2 pieces. One which is longer and the other one which is shorter. So after cutting out my sleeve, go ahead to add ½ inch on top for joining of the sleeve. So I'm just going to work with this, and let's say we are cutting a 180-degree flare. To cut that, you need to fold your pattern in a triangular form. So let's say what you have round your wrist is 8 inches. You're going to measure that. Go ahead to draw like a rough curve where you have that 8 inches. So from the closed part to that point, go ahead to measure and mark what you have to where your curve started. So take that round and remeasure or reconnect the lines. So from here, you're going to mark the length of the flare. So you can use 5 inches and 8 inches, or you can use 4 inches and 8 inches. So any measurement of your choice. So when you're cutting this, after cutting the first one, you can just go ahead to use this same pattern to cut the lower one. And what you're going to do is just to increase the length of your sleeve. You can also use a 360-degree flare to cut this out. So this is what I have for the sleeve.